Please stop sending unsolicited urine samples to your doctor. People with swamp crotch keep setting off TSA alarms at the airports. And a white actress sues a library for not being allowed to portray black historical females. These are the weird stories on Weird AF News, the only daily weird news podcast in circulation currently. Hee. A medical facility asks, please don't send in your unsolicited urine samples. We don't want them. We don't need them. This story is out of Scotland. A surgery facility in Fraserburgh, Aberdeenshire. Fraserburgh. Am I pronouncing these correctly? It's called the Saltoun Surgery Center. It was forced to change its policy after receiving a very high volume of unsolicited samples of urine. Is it only urine, or are they sending other bodily fluids? Very fascinated by this weird occurrence over in Scotland. Let's find out. This medical facility posted on social media saying, quote, please be advised we are no longer able to accept urine samples unless they have been specifically requested by the facility. So it sounds like people were just sending in their urine samples without being asked. I didn't know that was a thing, but upon reading some of the comments on this story, turns out in other medical facilities, this is also a common occurrence. Patients just sending in their urine samples. But I mean, what are we supposed to do with our urine samples? Give them to the mailman? I mean, there's not a lot you can do with your urine sample. They should go to a doctor typically, although I'm sure there's some, let's just say, citizens with a fetish for this sort of thing that would really maybe even pay you to send your urine to them. I know people are paying for some urine samples of OnlyFans models, and from my understanding, they get quite a bit of money for their bodily fluids on OnlyFans. I think I'm in the wrong business, guys. Recording a podcast in a closet, I should just be sexy and selling my urine. It's a much more streamlined business, pun intended. Just sounds like a way easier way to make some money. This medical facility in Scotland is a bit overwhelmed with the unsolicited urine samples being sent in, and they are now only accepting urine samples that are requested by a staff member. The reason being, according to their social media post, this change is necessary due to the high volume of inappropriate and unsolicited urine samples being submitted, which affects our ability to provide timely care to all of the patients. Thank you for your understanding and cooperation. Yeah, that all makes sense. I mean, you can't expect them to give out some timely care to the patients if they're dealing with all these unsolicited urine samples that then have to be poured over, get it? And then, I got some puns today. They're not so great, but they're puns nonetheless. Also, you can just imagine the sort of unsanitary containers that this unsolicited urine is arriving in. People are probably sending their pee in mason jars and empty peanut butter jars, child sippy cups, even maybe like a bowl without a lid. Probably not, but that'd be funny. In addition, there's other complications. For instance, a spokesperson for the British Medical Association in Scotland says it's not even possible to interpret the test results of urine samples without any clinical information in the first place. Each unsolicited sample handed in requires time and medical supplies to test in practice, contact the patient for information, and then interpret the results and/or send away for further testing. There are significant time and financial costs to the NHS associated with this, and as such, urine samples should only be submitted where a clinician has judged there is a need for such samples. Yes, in other words, this medical facility says if you can piss off with your unsolicited urine sample, how about that? I still can't completely wrap my head around why you would send in an unsolicited urine sample. I guess because you just want to be ahead of the game. You assume that eventually you'll have to give your urine, but, I don't understand the motivation for this. Can anyone break this down for me? Because it's happening in other medical facilities around the world, apparently. People are just sending in their pee. But I mean, on the bright side, at least they're not sending in unsolicited stool samples. I don't think. It doesn't say that in the article. Are people sending in their stools? Why do we call it a stool anyways? All right, a little search on that because I think it's important information to know in this world why they call it a stool. I never even looked this up, but apparently the word stool is used to describe poop due to its historical connection with the chamber pot or commode used for defecation, often situated on a stool. Essentially, the waste was associated with the place where it was produced. Over time, stool became a more formal term in medical contexts for the feces. All right, so it's archaic, first of all. But I'd also add that it's also dumb. It's a dumb term to use for that. And I think we need to have some sort of petition, maybe an online petition to change this word stool. I don't think we need it anymore. It's silly. And when a doctor says it, I giggle inside. Anyone else? Travelers with swamp crotch keep setting off TSA alarms. Are we all familiar with the term swamp crotch? Let me get a definition of this lovely word as well. Swamp crotch is slang, and it is a term for the unpleasant feeling and condition of having a warm, moist, and sweaty crotch area, often caused by excessive sweating. It's very similar to the term swamp ass that many of you probably are familiar with, but it specifically refers to the groin area. This can be very uncomfortable, leading to chafing and potentially causing skin irritation or odor from that area, and clearly it's setting off alarms at TSA. This article describes a situation where a female traveling for the first time in many years recently shared that both airports she passed through on her trip flagged her groin area during the security scan at TSA. She had no piercings, no medical devices, and her pockets were empty. The only possible culprit, apparently, it was her sweaty crotch. She posted about her experience, and other travelers chimed in with very similar stories, pointing to what one security officer allegedly called swamp crotch. The term might sound ridiculous, but it lines up with how the scanners work at TSA. They use a wave technology, and it not only detects metal, it responds to anything that disrupts the signal, including heat and moisture. So if you're passing through with some hot crotch, if you got a very hot groin, it's going to set off the signal. TSA expert Shauna said that sweat is one of the stranger things that can trigger an alert because of how the waves bounce off water. That kind of false positive happens more than people even realize. Well, I've never heard of this situation. I've never been stopped for a swamp crotch. I've been stopped because I had some really baggy sweats on once, and then I got the old little reach around from the TSA. But hey, it ain't gay if it's TSA. Now, there's an issue here. Obviously, when you're traveling, you tend to be a little sweaty and unkempt. It's just how it is, especially if you're on multiple flights, you've been traveling for an entire day or maybe even longer. You're going to end up with a very, very unkempt body situation, typically. Unless they're going to offer some free showers at the airport. People are going to roll up with some swamp crotch. Another thing you could do is maybe do a quick wipe before you go through security, but then you risk an arrest for indecent exposure. I'm just trying to figure out a solution for everybody involved. Now, some countries have decided it's not really worth the hassle. France and Germany have moved away from these types of scanners altogether because of the high number of false alarms. However, the United States has not followed suit. The woman who I referenced earlier in the story, who shared her incidents, said the agents were very polite and professional during the pat-down, so she didn't mind the extra screening, but the whole entire thing left her confused, especially since it happened twice in one trip. She described herself as, quote, mid-sized, wearing bike shorts and regular underwear. Nothing bulky, nothing extravagant. And while these scanners at the TSA are supposed to increase safety for all travelers, it leaves people wondering why such a common bodily function can land them in the secondary screening zone and perhaps lead to a delay in travel or a missed flight entirely. That's pretty annoying. If you happen to be one of these people that have perpetual swamp crotch or the occasional swamp ass, and maybe even during travel especially, there's some things you can do. I don't know if you've heard of fresh balls cream, but fresh balls cream, a buddy of mine that drives Uber swears by it. It'll keep you dry down there. According to him. There's also a product called Anti-Monkey Butt, which is a fresh crotch powder. There's probably some other solutions out there, products that have silly names like this. I just did a little search, and turns out I was right. Happy Sack Nut Love Cooling Ball Cream is another one. That sounds amazing. There's something called Tom's Butt Shield. I'm sure they might even have Ball Shield or Crotch Shield. There's also a Ballsy Body and Groin Rub, Carpe's No Sweat Groin Powder, and Everyman Jack makes a men's ball deodorant lotion. They might have something for women as well. So there's some products out there to get you prepared to go through TSA without the embarrassment of being stopped and felt up. Unless that's your thing. Some people are lonely and they use these moments to get close to another human being in ways that they normally can't, in ways that are usually unacceptable in public. In other words, some people look at this process as a free ass grab opportunity. And to those travelers, I mean, who am I to yuck your yum?
The spirit of innovation is deeply ingrained in America, and Google is helping Americans innovate in ways both big and small. Central Texas Regional Mobility Authority is using Google AI to create smarter tolling systems and improve traffic flow for Texans. This is a new era of American innovation. Find out more at g.co/American innovation.
A white actor is suing a library for not allowing her to portray black civil rights icons. Annette Hubble wrote a one-woman show. In it, she portrays some historical figures from U.S. history. She's white, but some of the people she portrays are black. This has caused an issue between her and a library in San Diego called the Rancho Santa Fe Library. They asked her to perform her show for Women's History Month. She gave them a list of characters to choose from that she's portrayed. They chose Harriet Beecher Stowe, a white abolitionist, Mary McLeod Bethune, a black educator and civil rights leader, and Harriet Tubman, who escaped slavery and led others to freedom along the Underground Railroad. A couple of weeks before the show, she claims she was asked to swap out some of the characters, Bethune and Tubman specifically, because they were black. They wanted her to portray white characters instead. She asked why, and the library responded with, quote, "Because it's not appropriate for you to be doing this. You're a white woman." This is according to Annette, the actor. The debate escalated to the county's diversity and inclusion team, who affirmed the decision that Hubble would have to swap out the characters. Annette Hubble refused to swap out the characters as suggested by the library, and the library then canceled her performance. And she is now litigating. The county declined to comment on the pending litigation, but in an email, the county spokesperson, Donna Durkle, said, "The San Diego County Library remains steadfast in its mission to promote an inclusive and welcoming environment for all that promotes learning, civic engagement, and community connection." Hubble isn't pleased with the response at all. She claims, "I think if people thought I was doing blackface or a parody of these people, not respecting them, then that might be a cause for an objection. But all they have to do is read my stories and the testimonies on my website, and they would see how deeply I respect and honor and admire these people from history, these women, these important women." Her lawyer claims they aim to set a legal precedent. "We want to send a clear message that the government has a duty to every individual to treat them equally and to treat them fairly. If the San Diego County government can make decisions based on race in this instance, then any county or local government could do the same, and we want to make sure that it stops here." Well, I mean, this is a nightmare, of course. These are the sorts of issues we've been dealing with in the culture for a number of years. And personally, I'm on the side of the library. I get where they're coming from. Look, libraries are struggling for funding. They're on shaky ground in so many ways. I mean, it wouldn't take much to shut down a library. People barely even use them anymore, sadly. And so when you're on shaky ground, the last thing you want to do is create waves in the community. Now, this is creating some waves, but it would have been a much bigger wave if you saw a headline like "White Lady Acts Like Harriet Tubman at the Library Performance." Now, not meaning she put on blackface, but let's say she put on some sort of accent or dressed like Harriet Tubman. I mean, there are ways that you can imagine she's portraying these people. She's portraying them in a character as them. So it might not be blackface, but it could be other things. And right now in the culture, people will jump all over that. You'll get such bad press. I mean, can you imagine? Especially in a place like San Diego. I mean, it's in Southern California. It's a hub of wokeness. You don't think they'd get in trouble for this? Of course they would. Of course they would. They can't really let her do that. I mean, they just can't. And they have every right to curate the performance. You know, of course, did they make a mistake? Yeah. She sent her some choices. They were like, we'll do these three. And then they thought better of it. Or maybe they had a meeting about it. And then they rethought the approach. You know, I don't see the big deal. She could have just changed it and still done the performance. I've been asked to change my performance for stand-up comedy. Hey, could you please on this show not swear? Hey, it looks like there's going to be some young people here, children. Can you not be edgy or over the top, dirty? I'm not that kind of comic anyways, but I've had to make changes to my performance to get work. It's called doing what you can to get work. There's not a lot of work out there for a one-woman show doing historical women figures in history. There just isn't. So you need to be amenable to get the work. That's just how it is right now in the world of performance arts in the United States, speaking as somebody with 20 years experience at this. But, I ask you, my listeners, what do you think? Are you on the side of the library here or the woman? Let me reiterate, libraries are on shaky ground right now. You do not want bad PR as a library. Are they getting some bad PR from her lawsuit and her statements? Yeah, a bit, but it wouldn't be half as bad if they allowed a white woman to go portray Harriet Tubman. People would lose their minds in San Diego over this.
Shop 4th of July savings at the Home Depot right now and get up to 40% off, plus up to an extra $600 off select appliances with free delivery, like Samsung. From all-in-one washer dryers to smart refrigerators, upgrade to tech you can trust with Samsung appliances. The Home Depot has what you need to simplify your routine. Don't miss 4th of July appliance savings at the Home Depot. Free delivery on appliance purchases of $396 or more. Offer valid June 18th through July 9th. U.S. only. See store or online for details.
Let's rock.
Hello, my fellow weirdos and loyal, supportive listeners of the Weird AF News podcast. I'm so grateful for your time today. I'll keep the outro very, very brief because I know you have important things to do today. You got to go take care of your swamp ass, first of all. And by the way, if anyone owns those companies that make these products that I mentioned earlier and you want to sponsor me, I'm all for it, man. How fun would it be to have a sponsor called, like, Happy Sack? I'm into it. Anyways, you can email me, funnyjones@gmail.com. I am accepting sponsorship always on Weird AF News. We're trying to keep the lights on here. We're trying to keep the microphone on inside the closet. Now, if you would like to send me any articles, please email them to me. And or send them to my Instagram @funnyjones. And if you'd like to support the show, I have a website, weirdafnews.com, where you can buy a coffee or join the Patreon. As always, I appreciate your time. I hope you'll consider subscribing if this is your first time listening and you're into weird news. Just FYI, I do 5-day-a-week weird news podcast. On Friday, it's only weird news from Florida, so that's the format. And I take liberties with the stories, of course, and I try to embellish them a little bit with characterizations, very terrible accents, and some bad singing. So that's how it goes. So if you think that's something you might want, please consider subscribing or following, and we'll see you tomorrow for more Weird AF News.